Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Outscaper podcast. On this podcast, I have a little bit of a special treat for you. I was recently on Joshua Gillow's Sales Made Simple podcast, where he interviewed me and we talked about how a website, a contractor's website, should be structured so that it ranks in the Google Map section, why that's important, some tips and tricks on how to do that. I had a really great time. It was a great conversation. And so we are going to be playing that for you today on the Outscaper podcast. So take a peek. If you're on Spotify right now and you're listening on Spotify, I would highly recommend that you go over to YouTube because we did some screen sharing and there are things in there that you're going to want to see more than you're going to want to hear. And so if you're on Spotify and you got the time, jump on over to YouTube. If you're on YouTube, sit back and relax and hope you enjoy it. Feel free to comment any more questions that you have in the comment section below, and we'll see you in the next one.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast here. I got Nick back with me here from Tecton Growth. And if you didn't listen last week, go back and listen. We really went through the Google profile and we talked about how to optimize that. Nick went through the nitty gritty all the way down to the details and he shares it all. He doesn't hold anything back. So if you didn't listen to that, go back and listen. He dropped so many nuggets last week. You can just take that episode alone. It's on YouTube. It's here, obviously. Go back, listen or watch and implement some of that stuff. And if you get stuck, call Nick. He's your guy. He'll take care of it for you. So Nick, welcome back. Today, we're going to be jamming into let's build a website that Google likes. What an idea.
Yep, exactly. Thanks, Josh, for having me again. Yeah, websites, everyone talks about them. And I think a lot of people, I tell guys, a website shouldn't be a business card that you just pass out to people, right? So many people's websites are just living on the internet, only being shown when somebody says, hey, go check out my website. Here's the link. Or, it's listed on your business card or it's listed on your truck. And then people find your website through you telling them about it, right? Mm-hmm. They don't actually stumble upon it. And I think that's what your website really should do for you is it should generate work for you. It should generate leads. It should bring cold traffic in and cold traffic meaning they don't know who you are when they click on your site. And then when they see your site and when they finally find it and they see it, they go, oh, I like these guys. I'm going to call them. That's what your website, that's the purpose of your website in this new, digital era that we're in now.
I love it. I love it, dude. And yeah, make no mistakes. Nick and I, before we hit go here, he was talking, he's like, look, whatever worked for you in the last 10 years is not going to take you into the next 10 years. Everything is changing. AI, integration, algorithms, Google, My Business is no longer called that. Who knew that? Now it's Google Business Profile, right? So the things are updating and changing and there's new categories and services and the way Google, organizes things and all of that stuff. We need to keep this up. This is a living, breathing thing. And if we think we're going to set it and forget it, pay a guy a couple grand to build a website and go back to work for 5 years, you're going to be sitting there with your hands in your pockets, pulling nothing out. You're going to have rabbit ears by the end of that. You got to keep it moving forward, constantly keep putting money into it. I say this because I've made this mistake multiple times over and over again, where I'm just like, oh, we're good. Got a lot of work. And the next thing you know, you don't. And then you're pulling your hair out thinking, I'm an idiot. I should have taken time and put money and time into that. And when you're hungry for work, that becomes very obvious. So by always maintaining this marketing plan, Google Business Profile, website, SEO, all that stuff, you can keep those great leads coming in. Because you know what? I might help you be able to have a better conversation and close the right people. But if you don't have the leads coming in, you ain't going to get those opportunities. If you're not networking or building a social presence or building a digital presence out there and knowing that your website really ranks for what your customers are typing in, you're going to be suffering. So Nick, welcome. I'm going to stop talking now. I could talk for a while. So I'm going to stop talking. Take over and show us the path, baby, to the promised land.
Yeah. I'll just preface it too. We talked about this in the last one, but what I'm talking about in this podcast and in the podcast before is just like you said, it's just one piece of your marketing puzzle. I think so many of us, because I had a landscape company, I had a design build company too, and I had hired marketing agencies and I just felt taken advantage of. A part of that is because I hired them with like this emergency, I need work now. And so many guys are feeding into that. and promising you 90 leads in 90 days. We're going to make you $500,000 in the next 30 days and stuff like that. And because it did happen.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
Yeah, it is possible, right? But they take
Yeah.
that best, like it, and I've done it. I have a client that I've done that for, right? But I talk to people every single day that fell into that trap because they needed work. They went and they paid for the agency that promised them the moon and didn't deliver it, unfortunately. And that's just irresponsible of the agency, but it's also irresponsible on us as the business owner to kind of believe that. We put ourselves in that situation to be able to get taken advantage of by not being a good business owner and doing all of the things that we need to do. Like you said, doing the local networking, doing good work for starters, being a personable person, like being able to talk to people, being able to talk to your clients, ask them for reviews, ask them to talk about you, ask them if they know anyone. Like, hey, who do you know that could also use our services? Like, all those things really matter when it comes to the marketing category when we're talking about marketing for your business. And so what we can do virtually for people is just a small piece. Like, what we do is not going to save a business or keep your business afloat. What we do, along with what you can do, we're going to partner with you and help you. That will help you then grow your business, but it takes a team. And so just throwing that out there, keep that in mind when we're going over this stuff. And I like to tell a lot of people that because I had that mindset about marketing, that I can just hire an agency and they should keep my business fed, and I don't think that's true. A lot of people have other opinions on that, but I don't think somebody virtually is not going to be your main source of lead flow for your business. You also have a responsibility that you have to do in your, that only you can do. And those two things working together can create a very healthy, strong business.
It's like I talked in the last one. It's very much like investing money. Like, you don't wait and say, I'm going to be living this wild lifestyle. And then all of a sudden you're just like, oh crap, I need money. Let me call a bank. You know what I mean? It's like, let's see if they'll give me money. Well, you don't have any money. They're not going to give you any money. It's not the same, of course. But the point is, if you're investing as you go along into your marketing or into your future, then, when it comes time to need it, you're already on that path. You go and you have a savings account. In this case, you have a great Google, business profile. You've got a good website. You might need to jack up the SEO a little bit or put in some paid ads or whatever, but you've got the framework. You're not starting from zero or like, I need it now. So yeah, man, take us through what you do, what to look for. Let's take a look. I know you're going to throw up a website here. So guys, if you are listening, and please not if you're driving, but if you are listening, you can pause here and then jump into I'll leave a link in the show notes for the YouTube version of this where you can actually see what Nick's working on. He's going to throw up a website now for us.
Oh, I didn't show this in the last one, but I'll show it now just to get some context of what it is that we're actually trying to do. But let me get it here. So what we are trying to do is get your Google business page ranked in the map section. So when somebody goes to Google, they type in landscaper near me or best landscaping services near me, whatever. What they're going to first see is the ads in Google. And the data says only about 7 to 10% of people will click on one of the paid ads. Below the paid ads, right now, on average, below the paid ads, this is how Google is structured, but things are changing because they're testing AI stuff. So there might be some other things in between here. But on average, when someone types in, at least in the landscape industry, the next thing they're going to see is the map section. And if you're seeing this image, this is old data from a couple years ago. I need to update this. The data from last year is 70+% of people who are searching for best landscape or whatever will click on one of these 3 businesses in the map section. And so there's only 3 businesses showed on the first page of Google in the map section. Sometimes 4, but that's a sponsored post. And so if you're not here, you're missing out on tons of work. I do keyword searches and search numbers for different locations every day. And there are thousands of people searching on average. And anyone who's listening, unless you're in the middle of nowhere, there are hundreds, if not thousands of people searching every single month for a service that you would want to be found for. And if you are not one of the 3 businesses listed in the map section on the front page of Google, then you're missing out on 70%. If 100 people search, that's 70 potential people who could call you. And so if you're not listed there, you're missing out on a ton of potential work. And most businesses, guys that I talk to, aren't ranking there. So that's what we focus on. So we started with the Google business page in the last show. Step 1 is optimizing your Google business page. And then step 2 with this is optimizing your website to match how your Google business page is structured. Because again, the priority with what we are doing is we are focused on ranking your Google business page in the map section. We're not focused on ranking your website down here in the website section at first, because down here where the websites are listed, there's only 20-25% of people clicking down here. And so why are we going to go after 20 people? If 100 people search, why are we going to focus on 20 people when we could focus on 70 up here? And not only that, where these website listings are down below the map section, you have now entered a nationwide competition, because if you live in a really high populous area like Chicago or Denver or whatever, any other big city, Dallas, and you scroll down below the map section and look at the websites, the businesses that are listed down here, you're going to see nationwide companies like Yelp, Angie's List, all of our favorite lead generation companies that we all love, right? All of those types of businesses are also trying to rank in that market. And the only way they can do that is through their website down here below the map section. So you can beat them because you're local. So that's why we focus on your Google business page. And how we format your website is a little bit different with that focus, as opposed to focusing on ranking your website as opposed to your Google business page.
That's a beautiful spot. It's a beautiful picture.
Yeah. So this is a client of mine. They do beautiful work. And this is a service. This is a website that we built for them. Essentially, the structure of the site, you want it to mimic your Google business page. And so when we talked last time, I talked about the Google business page having categories that Google predetermines, that you have to select a category. And then each category has a list of services that Google predetermines some, but then you can also add your custom ones. And so on your website, you want to have a category page with then service pages connected to that category page. And that's it. And then you have another category page with that category. So like, let's say landscaper or landscape designer. So for this client, he's very particular. So we didn't go super deep on this with him, but I'll show you what his maps look like, and you can see the alignment Google likes. So for him, we chose landscape service, a hardscape service, and a custom stonework service. His landscape service covers his landscaper category. So we have that page. I'm going to click to it. So we have that page. It's a landscaper category. We used landscape design here because that's what he wanted to focus on. And then within that page, we're talking about that category's services and where he does it. So for this particular client, the town that he lives in isn't a very big town, but we used that town as his home base because in my mind, that's where he lives. And so if I'm not going to talk about the town he lives in, then Google's going to be like, oh, what's going on here? You live in this town. Why aren't you talking about this town? We're going to talk about the town he lives in, plus then his other areas. And we've gone a little bit broad with him just because he was a little more picky in regards to how he wanted things to say and look. And so luckily for us, going broad worked for us. But in your market, going broad might not help because maybe you're in a more densely populated market. And you need to be a little more honed in. And that's where everyone's markets are different. What works for one guy's market might not work for another guy's market. And that's where, partnering with somebody like us, where we're going to, we need you to help us with our strategy because we don't have a cookie cutter. We have a basic structure that we do for all of our clients, but how it's implemented is different for every single client because every market's different, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so we have his landscape page. And then in that landscape page, we have links to the 2 landscape services that he provides. And there's only 2. But both of these services, then, we want to link to their own page. And we do the same thing with every category. So now he's got a hardscape service. There is no hardscaper category, unfortunately, but hardscaper is a service within the landscaper category in Google. And I might be able to show that for the people here on YouTube. If you go to your Google business profile and you hit edit profile here and you go down to your categories. This is my brother-in-law's old business. So this isn't a client. It's just an old business. we have the landscaper category here. So I'm going to go out of this and then go into services, and you'll see there's the landscaper category. And then within that, I can add, you can see the list of services, and then I can add more services. When I add more services, we should see hardscaping in here. There it is. You can see hardscaping is a service that Google gives you. Google knows that hardscaping is an actual service, but unfortunately, it's categorized under the landscaper category. So what we did was we just separated it on this website. We just separated it so that clients could see it. And then we go to his hardscape page. He's got his hardscape page. And then in that page, we talk about the different kinds of hardscape services. So we have patios, walkways, retaining walls, and outdoor kitchens. This one still needs to get made. But each of these now are their own page that aren't linked from any other page. So because in Google, it's only in this category. So we wouldn't want to link any of these other services to a different category, because that would, essentially could potentially confuse Google. We want to stay in the lane, right? So if landscaper is a category, you want a landscaper page, and then you're going to have a page for all of your, you can get crazy with services here. We usually pick 5 or 10 of the most important ones and build website pages for that. And then in each of those pages, we might talk about some other services. So right there, Google gives you the structure of your website right there. You have your homepage, you have your landscaper category page, and then linked from that category page, you want to have your different services pages. And we can see that here, kind of like what we did with this client. He's got a category page, and then he's got his different service pages within that category.
So are you trying to replicate the Google business profile just in a much more fancy form here, but keeping the structure the same? And why is that specifically? Because that's something so interesting.
Exactly. We just want to give Google what it wants. And we go, well, here's how it has structured the Google business page. And so how do we add more context? How do we prove that we are an expert in the area and in the services that we are claiming on Google, right? How do we then further prove that to Google? Because that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to show Google that we actually are the expert. We are the best landscaper in the area because we talk about, how do you know someone's an expert when they can eloquently talk about all of the things that are related, that are topically relevant to that certain topic, So when it comes to being the expert landscaper, you better talk about all the things that landscapers do, that are relevant to you, right? You don't have to talk about all the things, but you need to talk about everything that you do, right? If you just have a landscaping service page and you don't talk about any of the other services in there, how is Google going to trust that you're actually a good landscaper when you don't even talk about all of the services a landscaper provides, right? Or hardscaper, whatever. And so it's really about structure is what I'm kind of getting at right now. Because the Google business profile is structured in such a way, we also want to do that with the website and just mirror it. So now when Google goes and reads through your website, it has a clear path like, oh, I recognize this, right? This is how I structure things on my end. This business has taken the time and given me the clear list of everything. So now Google can start to connect the dots with the Google business page and go, I like this. Google likes this. And then it sees your content. This is then the next level is not just having the pages, right? It's also having good content.
Got it.
And so first is the structure. And then within that structure, Google has connected the dots. It sees the structure. Now it's going to go, okay, now I'm going to dive into each individual thing and see what this person's about, right? And so what it does first is it looks at that structure. And then next on each page, it takes and looks at the metadata, which is just called the metadata. It's a fancy term. If you're on YouTube right now and you go to Google and you can see this little link I have here, this website listing that I'm showing is the metadata. So this, I wish I could highlight this, but this title right here is called your title tag. And this description down here is called your meta description. So it's your title tag and your meta description creates your metadata. You want that to be optimized for the page that it's referring to. So if this was a home page, for instance, I'll go to my client's homepage. Their metadata is going to show their business name, their primary category, their Google business category keyword, and the location that they are in or that they are targeting. For this client, we just did one location. We're actually in the midst of spreading this out for them. So we're going to be going through here and adding 2 or 3 more locations. But you want to have that. And then you want to have the description, same thing, talk about your service, where and where you do it. And you want to have that optimized. These 2 things are some of the first things I look at when I do an audit on somebody's website to know if they've ever had anyone working on their website that has any semblance of SEO knowledge, because it's just so basic. Like, it's the first thing that we do for every single website is we optimize your metadata, and you would not be surprised how many people don't have anything in there. And so Google goes to your site, you have no metadata. That's why your site's not showing up anywhere, because Google has no, it's just like it went to find something and it wasn't there. So it's not going to dig deeper, right? Because why? Because if the first thing it went to look for is in there, you didn't care to give them that, why should they expect the next level that they're going to dig into? Why should they expect that to be any different? Probably 9 out of 10 websites I audit every single week don't have this.
Wow. Okay.
So
listeners, you better have Nick take a look. Maybe that's your smoking gun for you to get started.
Yeah. Yeah. Some SEO companies, that's their SEO program, is to just optimize those. Fortunately, that might have worked 5-10 years ago, not anymore. So this is where you get into that conversation where, I paid an SEO company, $300 for 12 months. And they didn't do, I didn't get anything from it. So now I'm going to throw SEO out the window, right? It's like, well, they probably sold you one piece of what SEO really is, right? And because they didn't educate you, you bought into it and you think it's a waste of money. Unfortunately, there's so many layers to SEO. We could be here all day, and I still probably wouldn't get through everything that we do. But so there's so many pieces, and you can't, I say what I just said, because there's no more shortcuts anymore. This is a very important piece, but by itself is not going to do, depending on your area and your competition, it's not going to have a huge result by itself. But with the 10 other things is going to play a huge part in how your business is viewed by Google and how authoritative you are online. The next thing that we look at is your H1 headings. So all this text on your website are headings. So what a lot of people get confused, especially when they're designing a website, there's 2 different heading types. There's the heading type of how it actually looks on your website. And then there's the heading type of how is that heading actually coded for Google to actually see it. So oftentimes somebody will choose an H1 because it's the bigger text. They want it to look bigger. So they set it when they're designing a website to be H1. Unfortunately, that also codes it to be H1. And you only want to have one coded H1 on your site because that's the next thing Google looks at. And in that H1, you want it to have the service that page is speaking of and the area that you live in or your target area. So for instance, if you're watching on YouTube, we have landscaper located in Standish, Maine. That's our H1, but we formatted it in such a way that it's not like the primary thing, because so many of us hardscapers and landscape design, outdoor living guys, this just makes us cringe.
Yeah.
Landscaper and located in Standish, Maine. Like, that is the most SEO ugly thing that you could ever say on your website, right?
And it's the first thing you say.
It's the first thing you say, right? And you don't want to have that. Like, none of it. Like, I fell into that trap. I didn't want to have that garbage on my website. It looks terrible.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you just have to, because if you don't, Google will never show your website to anyone who's not searching directly for it. So you just have to. So how we've gotten a happy medium here is we don't make it bold, but we have it coded to be the H1. Then we make the big heading, the big text H1. We code that as an H2, and we make that look bigger. And then we throw something fancy in there, whatever the client wants, right? This client wanted redefine your property into a welcoming, inspired retreat. And they sure did that with this image, right? And so Google's getting smarter. The algorithms and AI now are getting smarter. Like, when they read this, it's going to know, like, property, like, redefine your property. That they're going to know, like, they're kind of speaking on, like, constructing your property, right? And so it's going to take that into context. So you want to have your H2s to speak about the context that you're using in H1. So if I'm going to use like landscaper as my primary term, then I want to use other types of landscaper keywords in my H2. So if I scroll down the page, I have another H2 here. We have transform your outdoor space, right? And then below it, we talk about like your yard, we talk about outdoor space again. We talk about your designed backyard. We're using these kinds of keyword. We're not stuffing landscaper in there everywhere, but we're using topically relevant word choices all throughout that page. And then down here you see hardscaping, right? Landscaping, outdoor area, fire pit. Like you want to have those kinds of words all throughout your content on your website to give Google more of that context of who you are, what you do, and where you do it, right? So we talked about the structure, how that's supposed to look. We've talked about now, we've gotten in pretty, a little bit deep in regards to the technical aspect stuff. Eyes are probably glazing over, but this is all stuff. It's good to have at least a working knowledge about it so that you can hold your SEOs accountable,
Yep.
You can say, hey, what did you, can you send me my metadata? I'd like to take a peek at it. And they're going to go, you know what metadata is? Or, hey, can you send me a report of how you've structured our headings? Because there's often times where I see multiple H1s on a page because the person designing the website just didn't understand, right? Yeah. And maybe your SEO company isn't optimizing your headings, and so they don't actually go in there and change it to be coded correctly. And that's something that I look at because it's like entry-level stuff. It just needs to get done. Basics matter. Basically, doing the basics really will provide much better results than trying to cut a corner and doing some special, we call it black hat, which is basically just like you're just trying to cut corners, I guess. I don't know any better way to say it.
No, it's funny you say that because that's a big premise in my book as well, is the idea that you need to master the fundamentals, the foundation. You master the foundation of your website and the connection to the Google profile, or even in sales, you master the foundation of relationship building. And that's what the whole book is about, right? That foundation building. And when you can build that relationship and that foundation, then everything else rises from there. But if you try to do the black hat or go for the quick fix, the next thing you know, everything else falls down. It's like a house built on sand. So this is extremely important, listeners. I hope you're capturing all this stuff. It's fascinating.
Yeah. So those are the basics that just need to be done. And then I can talk about, that's what we prioritize the most, because here's the reality. And I wish I had some data on this, but what most people are going to do, they're going to go to Google, they're going to type something in. They're going to scroll down to the map section. They're going to click on your Google business page. They're going to look at your pictures. They're going to look at your reviews. 7 out of 10 people are just going to call you right then and there. They're not even going to go to your website. For those that then go to your website, and I'm just speaking from my experience and within the landscape industry and the local home service industry. For those that then go to your website, they're going to go on your website. And then I'm just going to kind of click. They're going to go, oh, look at that picture. It's beautiful. Oh, okay. They're cool. They do this and they're located in this area. Awesome. I'm going to scroll down some more. Oh, look, we got reviews. You want to have reviews here, right? Right away. You want to see people, they want to see your reviews. Let other people do the talking for you, right? As much as you can, and then they're going to scroll down some more maybe and go, oh yeah, it's a great picture. And then you might say something like, like here we're trying to talk to, we kind of use the story brand method to talk to the client's pain points and their desired outcomes, right? So we're going to mention like some common challenge. Yeah, I'm lacking function, it's like, yeah, I want this. Like, yes, my space is unfinished. Like this is what they're thinking in their head in split second intervals, right? And so they're just kind of skimming. They're just skimming. They see your photos like, wow, this is so beautiful. Look at that. And then at some point they're going to decide, okay, I'm going to call these guys. And then you want to have either a form or a button to make it very simple on how to get started. So we use buttons. We don't have forms. Some people swear you should have a form on your homepage. Again, the few people that end up on your website, they're doing more research. And so we're going to let them do that before we're going to get in their face to say, call us. We're just going to make it very clear on how they need to get a hold of us. Right. And so we just have that button. They fill the form out or they call and that's done. So like when I tell a lot of our clients, and I fell into this trap, I wanted to have this beautiful, custom, crazy looking website because that's the kind of projects we did. And I thought my website needs to mimic that. And if that's what you want, then that's fine. Do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. But the reality is, I tell our clients, like, and by doing that, you risk, if your website's too fancy and it's hard to maneuver, you risk people bouncing off of it and not, like, I've looked at a few websites where I'm just like, wow, yeah, this is cool, but like, how do I, like, I don't know what to look at right now because there's just so much stuff flying everywhere, and it's a little bit overwhelming. And I click off. I prefer something simple, clean, easy on the eyes. It looks professional. And what the real thing with the website, what makes it really stand out is your photos. If you can get professional photos taken for your website, the photos make the biggest difference when it comes to the look and feel of your website in regards to like how someone who lands on your website and is looking at it. Your photos make all the difference. Not how do I have my lines coming across? What kind of text and stuff did I do? Like, I care more about all that kind of stuff, just being very simple and very easy on the eyes, clear to get the information that they need to get, and clear on, okay, I'm ready to go. What do I need to do next? Cool. I'm going to click this button. It's going to go to this page. I'm going to call, fill out the form, done, right? Just super simple. And then let your photos do all the talking. I told you this too, when it comes to the types of words that you use on your site, like, unfortunately, you need these landscaper type words for Google to even show your site to people. And yes, we, as hardscaper, outdoor living guys doing, these beautiful custom projects, we hate to be labeled as a landscaper.
I know, it makes my skin crawl, but I understand it.
And so I just say, well, let your photos do the talking, right?
Yeah.
Like, the words really need to be geared more towards Google the best you can, and then let the photos do the rest when it comes to speaking about who you are and what you do to the actual person looking at your website.
No, it's good stuff, Nick. I love how you laid this out. And yeah, you see the H1s are big and bold. And then if Google needs to see, an H1 that says what you do and where you do it, and then you're kind of like, but I don't want that to be the fancy thing. I want to say something smart, and the website can be very much an artistic piece. And then thinking, you know what? It's good that it's artistic and it's beautiful and it's flowy and it's colorful. But if Google can't find it, what the hell good is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The point of your site is to generate work and not be, I mean, if you want your website to be an art piece, I won't hold you back.
Yeah.
But by doing so, there's pros and cons to both, right? And for us, and my mindset now with business is like, this should be a lead generation asset. That's what I'm going to optimize it to do, not to be this piece of art that, is that I'm going to showcase to everyone and be so proud of this piece of art. If that's what you want it to be, then I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. But if it's too artsy and it's hard for people to use, then it's not going to do what it's really should be doing in generating work.
Yep. I get it, man. I've been there.
So we just take a very simple, clean approach, and it works for our clients. And so again, we scratched the surface. Those were like what I talked about: the structure, your metadata, your headings, images, and just how we kind of laid out the page with all the words. You want to have 15 to 2,000 words on every page of your site. That's just a good mix. And try to speak to the client's problems and how you solve them.
Said 15 to 2,000. Do you mean 1,500 to 2,000?
Sorry, 1,500 to 2,000.
I was thinking that's a big gap, dude.
15 to 20,000.
Wow, that's a lot. Yeah.
Yep. 1,500, 2,000 words. That's, that's pretty good for what we do.
How do you find the right keywords to sprinkle? We don't want to stuff. What if we sprinkle them? Like, how do we know what people are searching so we know what to put on the site? Because we got to speak in their words, not in ours.
Yep. So now in the past, you used to have to be very specific with the keywords. Nowadays, in regards to local SEO and the context that we're talking about, I'm not talking nationwide stuff. We're talking about ranking your Google business page. All the algorithms, the AIs, they're smart enough to know that if I'm a landscaper and my category is landscaping, and I say I'm a landscaper located in Standish, Maine, and somebody was to search who's the best, maybe they don't type in landscaper, maybe they type in, who's a good paper patio builder, or who's a good this, or who's a good that, right? Google's going to take that, and they're going to know that if you've done your job right, you structured your Google business page correctly, right? You have all of the content that you need to have on your website. Google's going to know that person is searching for the best landscaper, even though they didn't say landscaper. They may have used another term. If it's contextually within the context of what you do and you provide, if you have that contextual relevance in your Google business page and on your website, you're more than likely going to rank for that keyword. So it's less about optimizing for an individual search term, and it's more about optimizing for the context of those terms. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that it's smart enough that you don't have to like nail the exact word. Like if someone puts in landscaper, it'll know landscaper equals these other options too, and it can be familiar with them. That's good that it knows that. And so is there any way that Google gives you a sheet and says, we think landscaper equals these 12 different things. And so that's covered, or you just have to know that?
The Google business page, the categories and the services.
Okay. Wow. So you're teaching in your Google My Business page, you're teaching Google how to think about you, and then you're pointing them to a website that takes them deeper in the same framework, basically saying, here's more of that.
And the reverse is Google is showing you what it wants to know from you, right? So it gave you the categories, it gave you the services to select, double that up on your website, and you've got your bases covered.
Very interesting. I never thought of a correlation between the two. I've always thought them as being two separate entities, one pointed to the other, but I didn't know that they were brothers and sisters. I thought they were more distant friends.
Yeah, a lot of people, I had an SEO company that said your website makes no difference on your Google business page, and I fired them because it's just absolutely not true. It makes a huge difference. Your website makes a huge difference for how your Google business page ranks. Now, are there people out there that don't have a website that have a well-ranking Google business page? Yeah, of course. And they're probably in the middle of nowhere and have no competition, right? But if you're in the middle of Dallas or Los Angeles, your website is that next level that Google's going to go to determine who's the best person to refer to my clients.
Yeah.
Right. So there's just how deep Google is going to go into who you are as a business is solely determined on how many options it has to choose. And the more options it has, the deeper it has to go. And that's why we don't try to do shortcuts anymore. We try to cover all the bases for every single one of our clients. Do we do too much work for some of our clients? Yeah, we do. But I'm okay with that,
Yeah.
Because I can feel confident that we're doing everything that we can to ensure that we get these rankings for our clients so that they're the ones shown when those 70+% of people who are searching for a service that they provide search. We want them to find them.
I love it.
And doing this, and I'll just say this other caveat, doing this, like I can't guarantee phone calls. We really can't, because what if something happens in your city? I mean, I'm not going to get political here, but Minneapolis right now is kind of falling apart. If you live in Minneapolis right now and you have a business down there, you're not getting any work. It's not because of your marketing. It's because of some other circumstances that are going on that you or I have zero control over. And you could be doing the best marketing in the world. You could be running all the ads in the world. But if there's a riot outside your door, no one's going to visit you, right?
Well, I'm sure it's even with storms. And we just had a massive snowstorm come from Texas all the way through New England. And, there's just hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people without power. We've got, 18 inches sitting on the ground here. It's almost zero outside at night. It's like there's other priorities in life at that point. So that might not be a marketing thing. It might just be a timing thing, an environmental thing. So I totally understand. Yeah. But you want to set yourself up with the best possible opportunity when people are actually searching, right? So you never know when they're going to search, but you do know you want to be the one they can find. And that's really at the end of the day that when they're ready to search, they can find you.
Yeah. And so we talked about earlier, you asked me about how do we know, right? So now we've done the Google business page stuff. We talk about the website. How do we know that you're being found, right? And so this is more for the YouTuber guys, but we have a tool that we use. I just call them a heat map. And it essentially tells you geographically how you're ranking in the Google map section, how your Google business page is ranking in the Google Maps section for different keywords. And so for this client, we literally just expanded his map. So the averages look terrible, right? The averages are red. But before we expanded it, this inner circle here was his target location. And his average was like 3. He has dominated this area for the term landscape designer. So if somebody types in something landscape design related, and let's say they live right here. Our client right outside of Limerick, our client's going to show up number 2 in the map section. If they're living over here, they're going to show up number 3. Then if they're in a state, they cross a state line and they're over here, they're number 18. Because it's a whole new state, this is probably going to be really hard to rank for. But that's what these maps show us, is how you are ranking in different areas. So oftentimes we'll do this map search for a client and they might have a decent ranking in this one particular area. And then I ask them, is this a good area for you? And they say, no, not at all. There's not even any homes out there. The area that I want to rank for is over here on your map where it shows 20 pluses, For this client, all these 20 pluses means Google's like, I don't even see you as relevant to even talk about in these areas. And 9 times out of 10, when I'm doing this audit for people, that's kind of what they have. It's either 20 pluses or it's red pins, and they're not even showing up. So all this tool is telling us is just giving us information about how Google views you in these areas. I can move this map all over the place. It doesn't change anything. I'm not saying this is part of our targeting method. This is just giving us data so that we can go and make wise decisions on how to change stuff on the website.
It gives us evidence to know where to start, right? Like, this is where we're starting. Okay, good. Now we need to improve if we want to improve. And let's now look at this weekly, monthly, quarterly as we make improvements to see if they're taking effect. It's a way to give you that step-by-step guidepost to know that you're investing in the right things.
And then, I see this all over Facebook because it's the world that I'm in. Guys posting these maps with all green. It's all green, and then they hide the keyword. They don't show the keyword, what it's for, right? And so, and I'll use this as an example. I could use this map and say, hey, your maps need to look like this, right? But now let me give you some context about what this keyword is. This keyword is for landscape designer Standish. Standish is a little tiny town right here, right?
Yeah.
No one over here is looking for a landscape designer in Standish, right? They're all looking for landscape designers in their own area. And so, cool, I'm ranked number 1, but who the heck cares? No one's ever going to search that keyword there, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to take all the stuff that you're seeing online with grains of salt. You got to have the context to make these maps. There's so much context involved when it comes to interpreting what these maps say. And so the best way is to just hop on a call and I'll walk you through what your business looks like and I'll give you all the context you need, right?
I love it. Yeah, Nick, I appreciate you coming on here these last 2 episodes and diving deep into this. And this has turned almost into a webinar, and I love it because it's we get to see stuff. So guys, if you're listening, obviously you can pop over to YouTube, come back over, whatever you want to do. There's a lot of great visuals that Nick's provided, but this is a lot of good stuff. Anybody, take a look at what you got in place. Even if you take 1 or 2 nuggets, you can only be moving forward, right? So, but reach out to Nick if you have questions. And I know that he's helped us and he's helped many of the guys that I talk to frequently, and they all love him because he says it how it is. Like he told you before, I'm not going to guarantee you anything. A lot of things can happen where we're going to give it our absolute best shot, feed Google exactly the kind of food it likes so that it smiles with a big old grin. Because you know what? When you make Google happy, it can make you happy.
And the last thing I'll say too, because everyone's going to ask, well, what about AIs? What about ChatGPT and Perplexity and stuff like that? And maybe I mentioned this earlier, but when you do all that fundamental that foundational stuff with SEO, when you have the good content, when you add frequently asked questions to your pages, when you do all that kind of stuff, you get good backlinks, you get your business listed on other websites on the internet, you get more websites talking about your business. When you do everything, you're also optimizing for the AI searches as well. So there's a lot of people going around saying, be found on ChatGPT, $300 a month, blah, blah, blah. It's the same game as SEO guys are. They're just selling one little piece, and you really need to think about the whole package. Again, there's no more shortcuts anymore. Like you can't shortcut your way to results in the online world anymore. And so for those of you listening, if somebody is promising you something like that, and they're only charging you a couple $100 to do it, that's a huge red flag in my book, because there's so much more involved to get actual results. And those lower budget packages, are just a shortcut, and you get what you pay for, unfortunately.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth in life too, right? So Nick, I appreciate it. How can people find you if they didn't catch you the last episode?
Facebook's the best way. Nicholas Conley on Facebook and Instagram. It's NickLausConley. And then you can go to our website, tectongrowth.com, and fill out our form, schedule a free strategy call. It's no obligation, no pressure. I just spit all this information out, and you do what you want with it.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, Nick, he comes at you with a hammer. I mean, he's not afraid to look at your website and be like, yo, bro, it's messed up. We need to get some work done here. He's not going to sugarcoat it. And he's going to give you enough value that if you want to go out there and try to roll your sleeves up and do it, go for it. But if you want some help and you want a strategic partner that's going to be watching all the changes that consistently happen with Google and websites and SEO and all that stuff, then reach out to Nick and his team. They do amazing work.
Yep, we'd love to help you.
Absolutely. Well, Nick, thanks for coming on here and sharing so many good nuggets. Listeners, I hope you were taking notes like I was throughout this. And you know that this world is changing so fast. We got to keep up with it, or you're going to be left in the dust watching other people build the projects you should have done. So once you've got your leads in place, you know, your SEO and everything, and you're getting great leads coming through from Nick and his team, you got to learn how to sell them too. You got to learn how to communicate with them and add the most value so you can be the obvious choice for that. So, that's where we can help you over here at Yes Express. So Nick, thank you for coming on, and get out there and keep changing the world.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, Josh.
Yep. All right, guys. See you next time.